If you were fixing your bra straps, fussing with wires, or battling your bra during this podcast, stop right now. You'll want to hear this. Those bra problems, those problems you thought you had to live with, Third Love has solved them. Their bras make it easy to get what you want, whether it's ultimate cleavage, a smooth look, or stopping your shirt buttons from pulling. With over 60 sizes, including half cups you won't find anywhere else, you'll never be stuck between two sizes that don't fit. So stop settling for bad bras. Now's the time to treat yourself and get your problem solved. Save $15 on your first order with code podcast15 at thirdlove.com.
This is Below Deck's Captain Lee. Listen to my new podcast, Salty, with Captain Lee.
Don't you mean our podcast?
Yeah, I guess I do. Anyhow, listen to Salty with Captain Lee, co-hosted by my assistant, Sam. And we will be talking about the latest pop culture news and all the gossip every week.
So does this mean we have to talk by ourselves, about ourselves, or can we at least have some guests on?
I don't know, I find myself pretty interesting, but yeah, we can have some guests on, some of our reality TV friends, and some stars.
Works for me. Listen to Salty now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 329 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibby Gibson. What is going on with you?
What's happening with you, Fergie Ferg?
I'm having a great week, man.
That's good.
My new basketball game comes out on the Xbox at the end of this week.
Yeah.
It's like my favorite time of year.
Is your player going to look like you?
Yeah, always.
Okay.
Receding hairline, gray.
The whole works?
The whole works.
Okay.
Man. Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Christine Craig.
Hey, Christine.
Rocky.
What's up, Rocky?
Billy Lockey.
Hey, Locky.
Tina K.
What's going on, Tina?
Torius Kane.
Torius Kane.
Or Torius. I'm going back and forth on that one.
Well, or just Kane.
Okay. Jimmy Burley.
Hey, Jimmy.
Rhonda Gunnell.
What's up, Gunnell?
Ashley.
Hey, Ashley.
Lynn Feather.
Well, appreciate that, Feather.
Stephen Ashley.
Hey, Stephen.
Alicia Haywood.
What's going on, Alicia?
Maria Byram.
Hey, Byram.
Lexi New Listens.
Well, I appreciate the listens.
Kumasi.
Hey, Kumasi.
Lowell Berman.
Well, there's Lowell.
Debbie Peck.
Well, thank you, Debbie.
Riley.
What's happening, Riley?
And last but not least, Brad Shaffin.
Well, that's awesome, Shaffin.
Yep. And then we go back into the vault. This week, we selected Lisa Sabo.
Well, thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, appreciate the new Patreon support, the continued Patreon support. We had a couple of great PayPal donations from Brian Coffey.
Hey, Brian.
And Kaylee Strzok.
Oh, thanks, Kaylee.
So thank you to everyone. Gibbs, right now on True Crime All the Time, we have an episode out on Lewis Hastings. We're headed to the Alaska wilderness. Such a strange story of a man who goes on a shooting rampage and kills almost a third of the population of an entire community. Now, it's a small community.
It is.
But still.
But it's the reasons for the murders that really get me fired up on this one.
Yeah, it's kind of a little hard to figure out what they are or what they were, to be honest with you. All right, buddy, are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time, Unsolved?
I am.
We're talking about the disappearance of Ryan Shtuka. Ryan Shtuka went missing after leaving a party at a ski resort in British Columbia, Canada, 5 years later. No physical evidence pinpointing his location has been found, and there are several unconfirmed theories about what happened to him. So this case is not that old, happened 5 years ago. Ryan Shtuka was born on March 17th, 1997. He was just 20 years old. At the time of his disappearance, Ryan lived in Beaumont, Alberta, with his parents, Heather and Scott Shtuka, and his younger sisters, Jordan and Juliana. One of Ryan's coworkers told CBC that he was a genuine and confident person who was liked by everyone.
Those are good traits to have.
No, absolutely. But, this is kind of emblematic, right, of what we hear about, of what we see people saying about people who have disappeared.
Yeah.
Now, one of Ryan's childhood friends, Danny Perot, told Peak News Magazine that Ryan was shy, but was, quote, a bit of a shithead and quick to rip on you once you got to know him. Perot said, I don't remember any times with Ryan when we weren't just laughing away. We'd just always be having fun. So it's not often that you hear someone call someone who has disappeared a quote unquote shithead.
Yeah.
But you can tell from the tone of this that these guys were great friends. And it's kind of like some of the banter that you and I have.
Right.
A lot of people take it the wrong way, but it's just us kind of goofing on each other and having fun. And so when he says that, I don't take it as derogatory.
I don't either. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to call you a shithead.
No, it's happened many times. You won't do it on the podcast.
Yeah.
For reasons that I've talked about. You would lose your good guy image, and you don't want to do that.
I'm a good guy, you shithead.
Now, Ryan wasn't sure what he wanted to do after high school. He worked for his dad's construction company in the summers. He also went to university for a year. He did well academically, but still hadn't decided what career path he wanted to take.
I think a lot of people go down that avenue. I know I did. I think you even did.
I did. And I think, a lot of kids now are going down that route, and for reasons that you and I didn't have. Now you can make a lot of money on YouTube. You could be a podcaster. You could be a streamer.
Yeah.
These were things that didn't exist when you and I were trying to figure out what we wanted to be in life.
Definitely more opportunities in that area.
Well, and there's opportunities that don't require going to school or learning a craft. These are things that you can do in your basement. Now, unfortunately, it's a little bit like trying to be a Major League Baseball player.
Right.
There's a very small percentage that are going to make it big. A whole bunch of people are going to try it, and very few are going to make it big. And I think you're going to have the same thing in a lot of these others as well. So I worry about it a little bit that, people are going to put all their hopes on a YouTube channel or
be the best gamer,
something like that, and not have the degree, to fall back on. But, I've been watching a lot more British shows than I ever have before. And so university and uni and these terms I've heard a lot now, but they still kind of always went to university, or went to uni or something like that. It's like hospital is another one.
Right.
You don't go to the hospital or vacation, holiday. They just say it a little differently than the way we would say it here.
And they use their British voice.
No, that as well. Ryan told his mom that he was thinking about working at a ski resort. He had enjoyed snowboarding since he was a kid. Ryan and his friend James Maxwell, a friend who lived in Beaumont, decided to live and work at the Sun Peaks Resort in British Columbia for the winter season.
For a kid in that age range to work at a resort, probably pretty fun.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
Just like as evidenced in every 80s movie that was ever made.
That's true. It really is.
Or Hot Tub Time Machine, which was not made in the 80s, but they went back to the 80s.
It was so weird that you just said that because that was playing in my head at that moment.
That's because you and I are on the same wavelength.
That's right.
So this Sun Peaks Resort is a ski resort in British Columbia, about 35 miles from the city of Kamloops. The resort village has a population of less than 2,000. Sun Peaks is about a 9-hour drive from Ryan's hometown. But, all joking aside, what kid that age doesn't want a little bit of freedom? Most do.
Right.
And what's better than getting that freedom but also getting paid to kind of get away from your parents for the winter.
It's a dream.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it really would be. So Ryan moved to Sun Peaks on December 1st, 2017, and he intended to stay for the season. He worked at the resort's tube park as a lift operator. Ryan lived in a cabin with 5 other people. He shared a room with James Maxwell. Another one of his roommates was Chris Feeney, a man from Australia. Feeney and Maxwell spoke with Peak News Magazine about Ryan's disappearance. They said it seemed like Ryan was having a great time at Sun Peaks. In his free time, he liked to snowboard or spend time with his friends. Before he went missing, Ryan texted his dad that he had gone snowboarding for 36 days straight and just landed a backflip for the first time.
Those aren't easy to land.
I would not know. First of all, I've never snowboarded. I've never skied for reasons which I've discussed before. But if you are a snowboarder and you're being paid to work, but in your free time, you can go snowboarding for 36 days straight. Okay. More of a dream.
Absolutely. It's a piece of heaven for them.
Ryan went to work as usual on Friday, February 16th, 2018. After work, he went home, and later that evening, he and his friends went to a silent disco event at a local bar called Bottoms.
You ever seen those?
No. I would love for you to explain what that is.
When they wear the headphones and everybody has their headphones on, they hear the music blaring like you would be at a club.
Mm-hmm.
But the community that you're in, they don't hear it. So when you walk up on one of these events, you see all these people dancing.
But it's silent?
But you don't hear it unless you had the headphones on.
But everybody is listening to the same song, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
See, I was picturing like everybody listening to their own music, and I'm like, that's going to be some weird dancing.
Yeah.
Right there.
That's the next stage that will come up one day.
Afterwards, the group left to attend a party at a village residence. The house was located on Burfield Drive, which was described as a nice part of the town where families and seasonal workers live, according to CBC. Not everyone who attended the party has been identified by news sources, but we do know that James Maxwell, Chris Feeney, and Chris's girlfriend were there that night. The party was a mix of year-round residents and seasonal workers. Ryan's mother, Heather Shtuka, estimated that there could have been 30 to 50 people there throughout the night.
That's a lot of people.
It is, but, what does that mean? Was there 30 people there all at the same time, or were people coming and going? And the end result was that 30 to 50 people were there at some point.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense. I know you were the type of guy that always showed at the party late. You don't want to get there right away.
No,
you wanted
but I would close it down.
Yeah, you would.
But I do think it's important to identify these people, because my thought is no matter what time they were there, police would want to talk with them, to see, did they see anything unusual? What time did you get there? What time did you leave? All that stuff. Because Ryan went missing around 2 a.m. on February 17th, 2018. James Maxwell decided to leave the party first. Chris Feeney and his girlfriend then decided to leave between 1:30 and 2 a.m. Ryan's roommate saw him getting up as if he were going to leave with them. They thought they saw him put on his coat and shoes and assumed that, he was right behind them during the walk home. Heather Shtuka told Peak News Magazine that Ryan gestured like he was heading out with them, but no one can remember him leaving the party. She said Ryan's friend stood up and said, "Okay, we're going." And Ryan stood up and looked like he was going to put on his coat. And the friends continued out. And that's the mystery. No one can really remember him saying, "Hey, I'm leaving." And yet when his friends looked behind them at some point, he wasn't there. I don't know if you want to talk about, they probably had a couple of drinks. And
I'm sure they were drinking that night. Things are going to look a little different to you at that moment.
When you've been drinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. If they were drinking, I assume they were, but who knows?
But even at an event like that, if there's enough people around, a lot of activity, I can see where you look back and it looks like that individual's coming with you and you think, okay, and you keep moving. And next thing you know, you're like, well, I guess they changed their mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, he's not a little kid.
Right.
So what would you do? run back in and make sure you've got him. Maybe not. Maybe just keep going and figure, he decided to stay. He'll get home later. I just wonder at what point did they realize he wasn't there? Because it was a little vague. It was just like all of a sudden they turned around and, he wasn't there. Heather added that she doesn't blame them for leaving Ryan behind. She said, I think they were like, okay, maybe he thought he would stay. And I think their thoughts would have been different if he had said, I'm coming with you.
I agree with her.
Yeah, because it almost sounds like, he stood up, acted like he was getting ready to put his coat on. And that was just kind of an assumption, I think, made by them that he was coming.
But at that same moment, maybe somebody across the room kind of pointed at him like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
How you doing, man?
Right.
Or some girl approached him or something.
Or maybe he just stood up to stretch his legs and never meant to come with them at all. We don't know. And I think even his mom said it, right? That's part of the mystery.
Yeah.
It's only about a 5-minute walk between the two houses, but it's very important to note the weather conditions at that time. It was minus 20 degrees Celsius, or for us, minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Either way, that's very, very cold. I mean, it's the same temperature, but whether you think of it as minus 20 or minus 4, anytime there's a minus sign in front of it, to me, that is way too cold.
Not good.
And then also the snow was 14 feet high in some areas, and there were 20 centimeters or almost 8 inches of snowfall that night. That's a lot. Some places here in the U.S., you get like 2 inches and the whole town shuts down.
Yeah, that's true.
Not where we live, but
No.
You get a little farther south where they're not used to snow, and it's like, shut it down.
That's right.
Shut everything down.
But first go to the store and get all the eggs, milk, and bread for some reason.
Water, toilet paper. But 8 inches is it's quite a bit of snow. Ryan was not dressed in winter gear that night. So, if we get into theories about him going out and getting lost or falling down or whatever, in that temperature, if you're not dressed appropriately, it doesn't take very long for some very bad things to happen.
But if you're like a lot of kids that age, I know how my son is.
Your son would probably be wearing shorts.
He always wears shorts. Exactly. And I'm thinking, how can he be wearing shorts? It's like almost 0 degrees out, but that's what he always wore, shorts with maybe a hoodie.
Warm up top.
Yeah.
Legs are freezing.
Yeah. So I could see Ryan thinking, well, I'm just right next door. It's not that big of a trek.
It's cold, but it's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see, a younger person thinking that. Now me, I don't want to be that cold. No. I don't care if it's for 5 minutes or what.
You put the whole snow outfit on just to go out to get your mail.
I got the younger brother's outfit from A Christmas Story where I can barely walk.
The puffy jacket.
The puffy jacket. Ryan was also intoxicated at the time of his disappearance, but no one really knows to what extent. According to Gene Strong, the editor of the Sun Peak Independent News, Ryan reportedly used recreational drugs that night. There are rumors about what exactly he took, but no sources have said what drugs or alcohol Ryan used that night. And that's pretty tough, when you're trying to figure out a story like this.
Sure.
Because, you don't know if somebody was slightly buzzed. You don't know if they could barely stand up. There's a big difference. And then you add on top of that, well, what type of recreational drugs are we talking about? Because they can be pretty varied. They can have different side, effects and do different things.
The combination of those can have an impact on your decision making.
And again, that depends on what type of drugs.
Right.
As to how they might mix with alcohol.
I mean, you walk out that door thinking your home is 5 minutes to the left, but you go to the right. Now there's a problem.
There was some speculation that Ryan went to another party that night, but this has been disproven. According to Ryan's page on the website, Please Bring Me Home. Ryan did not show up for work later that day. His supervisor contacted one of his roommates, and they posted on the resort community Facebook page. After more time had passed, they called a local hospital and were advised to call the police. And I mentioned it, right? This is a newer case. So Here we have roommates posting on Facebook. Whereas, if we were talking about a case 20 or 30 years ago, you'd have people calling around to friends and family and saying, hey, have you seen this person? But in reality, you can reach a lot of people quickly.
Oh, for sure.
Using social media.
It's a good way to get the message out. Maybe somehow you can resolve the case a little sooner.
Yeah, you don't need to go door to door in the resort, because probably a lot of people are tapped into this community Facebook page. RCMP received the missing persons report at 8:47 p.m. James Maxwell texted Heather to inform her that they had reported Ryan missing. James sent the following message. Hey, Heather, I don't mean to worry you, but Ryan didn't come home last night and didn't show up for work the next day. I filed a missing persons report and just wanted to let you know in case the police call you. All right, so I've got to talk about receiving a text from one of my children's friends saying, hey, I don't mean to worry you, but I filed a missing persons report because this person didn't come home. We haven't heard from them. You don't mean to worry me. I'm immediately worried.
For sure.
And please, I don't want to be worried, but I want to know.
For me, it's kind of weird that they send a message or a text.
Not a call.
Like, why not say, hey, can you call me when you have a moment?
Yeah. Well, and again, maybe that's just a younger person's thing because many of them like to talk on the phone.
That's true.
They're more comfortable with texting and things like that. But, the way it comes out is just kind of a little cavalier. Hey, this is not that big a deal. Right. I don't want to worry you, but it's a very big deal. And Ryan's parents were immediately very concerned. Heather checked her phone and saw that a text she sent to Ryan that morning had not been delivered to his phone. She and Scott drove through the night to get to Sun Peaks. And I can imagine every parent thinking the same thing. Hey, we don't know what the hell's going on, but we're going.
Yeah, we better get up there and see what's happening.
True Crime All the Time Unsolved is sponsored by BetterHelp. Folks, let me know if you ever experienced this, because I do. Racing thoughts, things that, are keeping you up at night, waking you up early, or really just preventing you from being able to enjoy your life. For me, this comes from a lot of different places. Job worries, financial worries, relationship worries. Well, it turns out one great way to make those racing thoughts go away is to talk them through. And therapy gives you a place to do that. So you can get out of your negative thought cycles and find some mental and emotional peace. I have used BetterHelp for a number of years now, and I can say it's extremely beneficial. It really does help to talk to a professional. I love BetterHelp because it's entirely online. No driving, no sitting in a waiting room. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. And all you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/allthetime today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/allthetime. Angie's List is now Angie, the home to skilled neighborhood professionals. Angie is your home for everything home, and they've made it easier than ever to connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. If you own a home, you know how much work it can take, whether it's everyday maintenance and repairs or making dream projects a reality. It can be hard just to know where to start, but now all you need to do is Angie that and find a skilled local pro who will deliver the quality and expertise you need. Angie has over 20 years of home service experience, and they've combined it with new tools to simplify the whole process. Bring them your project online or with the Angie app. Answer a few questions, and Angie can handle the rest from start to finish, or help you compare quotes from multiple pros and connect instantly. And all of that means you can take care of just about any home project in just a few taps, because when it comes to getting the most out of your home, you can do this when you Angie that. Download the free Angie mobile app today or visit Angie.com. That's ANGI.com. Deadly Nightmares, the podcast from ID, tells the real stories of people stalked by serial killers and attackers. On every episode, survivors share the chilling moments they knew their lives were in danger and how they managed to escape their attacker. Investigators and family members close to the victims discuss the disturbing details of each case and exactly how they happened. These cases are the stuff of nightmares, but they've happened in real life to real people. You'll never drive alone at night again. So we wanted to tell you about Deadly Nightmares because we think you'll want to add it to your list. This is a great true crime podcast, and you get to hear from those very close to the cases. And I always think that that's an interesting aspect. I especially recommend When a Stranger Knocks. This episode is about 36-year-old Deborah Brown, who's trying to get a fresh start and relocates with her children from New York to Maine. She gets a new job and a new boyfriend, and everything seems to be going great until one night when a knock on the door changes her life forever. You got to check that one out. So listen to Deadly Nightmares wherever you listen to your podcasts. When they arrived on Sunday, February 18th, they spoke with the Kamloops Search and Rescue, who told them the chance of finding Ryan alive was slim to none. And I found that to be very odd.
Pretty cold.
Well, I get that. But it wasn't, and maybe there was more to the conversation, but it wasn't, if he was out all night exposed to the elements.
Right.
Okay, yes, finding him alive is probably not going to happen. But they don't have any idea where he is. He could be crashed out at a friend's house. So to say that the chances of finding him alive are slim to none, I thought at that point was a strange thing.
I think there could have been a better delivery of that message.
And maybe there was more to it. This was, just some of the things we saw quoted. The first search lasted 15 hours and utilized dog and drone teams. Searchers worried that Ryan fell into a gully and was covered by snowfall over the weekend.
Well, I think it's a real concern. It wouldn't be very difficult if you're getting 8 inches the night of the party and probably more snow after that for a body to be covered with snow.
Yeah. And very hard to find until that snow thaws out.
But it's interesting, because this case is so new that instead of talking about helicopter searching, we're talking about
drones.
Yeah. The new technology now.
Additionally, the RCMP found no social media or cell phone activity after the time Ryan disappeared, and it has remained that way for years now. The police also spoke to the people who attended the party, but they couldn't get much information because no one knew where exactly Ryan went. So I mentioned that I thought it was strange that, right off the bat, they said the chance of finding him alive was slim to none. Well, after it comes out that there's no social media, there's no cell phone activity, that would become more worrisome because even if he was somewhere in someone's house, let's say, he's not at the party because we know that.
Right.
So it means he had to have left at some point.
Went somewhere.
And gone somewhere. But if he was holed up at somebody else's place, most likely he's going to have some type of cell phone activity. A kid his age.
And most likely he would go on those different sites.
Yeah, Facebook, something along those lines. On February 19th, the Kamloops Search and Rescue suspended the search. The family was informed that they would not be coming back until there was a change in the environment. And I think as a family, that's tough.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Now, I understand it from their side of it because they had done quite a bit of searching. There was a lot of snow. They hadn't found anything. And they were probably thinking, hey, until something changes, we're not going to find anything.
So more of from a search and rescue to search and recovery.
Yeah, and that would make sense because by that point, there's no way he would still be alive if he had been out in the elements all that time. Corporal Jody Shelkey from the Kamloops RCMP told the public that they had a helicopter searching the area and would do patrols with the police dog service. So, apparently they did use helicopters too, but they used the drones. And
that's good. They're using anything available for them.
Yeah, absolutely. The RCMP also asked Sun Peak's residents to check outbuildings and vehicles in case Ryan tried to find shelter. The initial efforts focused on the area between the party and Ryan's residence. And that makes sense, right? You leave the party, most likely you would think he might be headed home. There are trails near the house that go off into the woods, so search parties walked those trails. They didn't find Ryan. They also checked the village, and as more time passed, forests and mountains. At the time of Ryan's disappearance, the search efforts were hampered by heavy snowfall and rough terrain, which is why I think they suspended it and said, hey, until things change, until this snow goes away or whatever, we're not going to have any luck.
And it's also a bigger risk to the
people searching. Yeah, absolutely. According to the Ryan Shtuka website, there have been 3 official searches with the RCMP and Kamloops Search and Rescue, as well as informal volunteer searches. Ryan's family and friends from Alberta traveled to Sun Peaks to participate in searches with the locals. Heather told CBC, it's hard every day. I think as soon as it starts getting dark and it gets colder, it's hard knowing that your child's still out there and that they still need you. And you feel like you can't do anything. You feel helpless.
Yeah, I'm sure she felt helpless. How else could you feel?
Yeah, and I don't think it would matter what's going on in your head. You know, whether you thought, okay, he's still alive, still a helpless feeling because you can't find him, or at some point you were resigned to the fact that he was most likely not alive.
Yeah.
It's still a helpless feeling because either way, you want to find him, whether it's find him alive or recover his body. One or the other has to happen.
Exactly.
She added, there's those feelings of hopefulness, and then there's the harsh reality of knowing that if he's in the elements at this point in time, we are looking at recovery. So that's hard as a parent. So I think she's saying it right there. There's always hopefulness, because until you prove to me that someone is not alive, I have to hold out hope.
Yeah, I think you do.
But then there's a part of me that is smart enough to know that if he was out in the elements, there's too much time that has passed for him to have been able to survive.
But I think your mind always says, but what if?
What if he wasn't out in the elements?
Right. What if he found shelter? What if he found a way to stay warm?
But then logically, every day that goes by makes that harder to believe.
Yeah.
Because he would have contacted us by now. He would have used his cell phone, posted on social media, something. From March 7th to the 9th, 2018, the Canadian Search and Disaster Dogs Association conducted a search for Ryan, but found no evidence. A third search took place on March 11th. Search efforts were suspended the next day, and the Shtuka family started managing their own searches.
I just think in that environment, knowing how the terrain is very rough, and then you add the elements on top of that, I think any search effort is going to be very, very difficult. Even with dogs, helicopters, drones, doesn't
ATVs,
matter.
whatever type of machinery you have, it's still going to be very tough. But how tough is it going to be for the family to try to do it themselves? Exponentially tougher.
But as the family,
you have to.
You have to.
In an interview with CBC Edmonton's Radioactive on March 13th, Heather expressed her frustrations with the search effort. She said, when people ask, how can you still believe that Ryan is here 24 days later? It's because we are conducting the searches. We as parents had no guide on how to do this. She said time and effort were wasted because they were not told how to properly manage search efforts. And just like I just said, they don't have the knowledge and they don't have the resources. Now, they got to do something.
They do.
Because they're trying to find their child. But how effective can they really be?
And it's going to be natural for them to be frustrated.
Yep. We see it in every unsolved case. A possible sighting led investigators to reconsider the established timeline and Ryan's last movements. Investigators received a tip that suggested Ryan might have left the party at 1:30 a.m., which caused them to reconsider a reported sighting that had been dismissed. It was thought that Ryan was seen on Fairways Drive in Sun Peaks heading to the village to buy food. A pizza restaurant stayed open until 2 a.m. Heather told CBC it was possible that Ryan was hungry and decided to go to the resort center to get food. The individual who allegedly saw Ryan was sober and gave an exact time.
Well, that changes a lot, but I wonder why it was discounted early on.
Yeah, I do think it changes a few things, right? Were they searching in the wrong area? Because we mentioned it, right? Their assumption was that, okay, we're going to search from the location of the party to the residence. That was the first part.
Right.
If they had not discounted this sighting, would they have maybe done a search in that area or from the party to that area? And would it have yielded any results? We don't know. But I want to go back to the thought that, there was alcohol consumption and maybe recreational drugs. So if one of those drugs was marijuana, which is very, very common, I think we all know one of the side effects of that is getting hungry.
Yeah.
I've been told that. So could it be possible that at 1:30 someone gets hungry,
Has the munchies,
and they go looking for food? And I would say, yeah, very possible. Again, I've been told that.
so you've heard.
So I've heard. The problem is that surveillance cameras in this area were inactive or not working on February 17th. And, that's so disappointing. We do all these cases. We've done a lot of cases over in Britain lately, and they have surveillance cameras everywhere. This case is only 5 years old. Surveillance cameras have come a long ways.
They have. They really have.
And 5 years ago, they were pretty good. They're even better today. But if they're not working, okay, number one, why are they not working?
Exactly.
But then all of that lost information, was somebody else with him? What direction did he leave in? Did he actually even make it there?
No, I agree with you. If they could see him walking in a video, it changes everything.
Yeah, because I say video doesn't lie. For the most part, that's true. Can you fake a video? Yeah, but I don't think we're in that area.
Yeah.
It's one thing for someone to say, I think I saw him headed this direction. The video with landmarks and buildings, it kind of proves all that. Now, at some point, he's going to walk out of frame, but at least you know what direction he was headed at that point.
And potentially what time.
Yeah, and what time. As spring came, volunteers were hopeful that they would find Ryan's body once the snow melted. Heather told CBC, 5 weeks in, I know the likelihood of him surviving is next to none. We believe he just got caught up in the elements and we just can't find him. And I wonder, in a lot of these cases, at what point does the family kind of get there? Meaning they start to believe that their loved one is no longer alive. Now, she's giving this interview 5 weeks in. It sounds like they were at that point then. They could have been there even before that. In a lot of stories, they never get there.
Right.
But they don't have the same elements, right? The cold, the snow, the fact that he wasn't dressed.
Do you think in the back of their minds, they still have a little reserve?
Oh, I think you always have some hope.
Yeah.
You have to have some hope. But I think, if you're looking at it like as a scale and you have hope on one side and doubt on the other, that scale, it starts to tip. Right? It has to as time goes on. But I don't think you ever fully give up hope until something is proven to you. Heather and Scott stayed until June 2018 to wait for the snow to melt and continue searching the ski resort and surrounding area. Ryan's body was not found in or near the resort. Additionally, no other evidence was found, such as the clothing he was wearing that night or any personal items. So, Gibbs, as far as unsolved cases go, we often see that there's very little information, evidence. We've got next to nothing here.
Nothing really solid to go on.
After the Shtukas returned to Alberta, they traveled back to Sun Peaks every month. to continue searching.
Of course. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah. And that doesn't surprise me one bit. I think almost every parent in that situation would do the same thing. Local newspaper publisher Brandy Shire told CBC that the RCMP's silence about the disappearance was a vacuum of information and that there was widespread misinformation and rumors.
That's kind of a weird quote.
Yeah, I get that. A vacuum of information regarding the RCMP's silence. What does that mean? What are they supposed to say? Either they don't know anything or they know something that they can't share. And then I think when you talk about widespread misinformation and rumors, I mean, don't you have that in every unsolved case?
I think you do.
Because people are making assumptions or they're trying to figure out what happened, but they don't know.
Right.
So they're saying things that could be true, could not be true.
And I think in a case like this, the rumors would just grow, because the body hasn't been found. So there's going to be a lot of assumptions thrown around. Maybe something happened at the party. Maybe there was a fight. Maybe there was, right? You just could add many different things.
Well, yeah, because nothing has been found yet that takes anything off the table.
Right.
And until that starts to happen, people can speculate about just about anything. Kamloops RCMP Corporal Jody Shelkey told CBC, when somebody goes missing, until there is a definite conclusion as to where the body is, then it's an open investigation. Okay, that makes sense. I don't have any issue with that statement. Many people were posting their theories about what happened to Ryan on Heather's Facebook page or sending her messages. Ryan's former roommate, Chris Feeney, told Peak News Magazine he received death threats to turn him into the police, or messages from people claiming they had a video of him doing something wrong. And why is it that we live in a world now where people seem to really enjoy doing this type of stuff? Whether it's messing with the family, messing with friends, people close to the person who has either gone missing or has been murdered.
It never fails. These things pop up. I don't know how you look in the mirror and feel good about yourself doing things like this.
No, I don't either. But did you just say mirror?
Mirror on the wall?
Like a with a almost Boston accent?
Well, I do have some Boston in me.
Yeah, you do. But I'm with you, man. I don't know how you live with yourself. I think if I did something like that, my conscience would just eat me alive. Jean Strong, editor of the Sun Peaks Independent News, said she read theories about sex trafficking, the drug trade, an animal attack, and even aliens.
Well, you're that high up in the sky, mountains, wilderness. It's where aliens like to find their victims. Bigfoot, Sasquatch. No, I mean, I'm sure the rumors were all over the place.
From plausible to, pretty far out there. Yeah. They kind of are all over. She also said that young workers at the resort were afraid, and some of them didn't want to walk home alone at night.
That I believe. I can see that. After something like this, and you have no knowledge of what happened to Ryan, I would probably not want to walk home myself either.
It would be scary. Months after Ryan's disappearance, another tipster submitted potentially relevant information. A man named Jim Reed, who was staying with friends in the village, told CBC that he heard something outside on the night of Ryan's disappearance. He said, "I heard a guy's voice, and it was Matt." The man reportedly yelled, "Get in the car, get in the fucking car." So Reed reported what he heard to the police. They called him back several times, but he hadn't heard anything else, according to CBC. However, it's important to note that Reed lived 20 minutes away from the party and in the opposite direction of where Ryan lived. But do we know that Ryan headed back to where he lived? And I don't know that we know that. Now, Heather told Peak News Magazine, no evidence puts Ryan there. Everything puts him down in Burfield. Retired RCMP investigator Brian Smith believed that Ryan may have been killed. Like many others, he initially thought Ryan got lost on his walk home, but he spoke to one of Ryan's friends and changed his mind. Smith told CBC The friend seemed to be very nervous and very afraid for himself, which was unusual to me. My gut told me that this was most likely a homicide, not just a missing person. He shared this with the RCMP, but the police said they did extensive interviews with everyone involved and did not believe there was foul play in Ryan's case.
But I don't think you could rule it out.
No, I don't think you can rule it out, but he did say, it was his gut telling him this. Now, he probably has a pretty good gut. Retired investigator, gets a feeling. Are they always right? No, but was it just the fact that this friend was nervous? Okay. Are most people nervous when they're talking to investigators? Or yeah, maybe. Probably.
Here's another possibility, right? Is that Ryan left, headed to the pizza place. He's walking on the road. One of these party goers were drunk or had whatever the drug of the night was in their system. Maybe didn't realize Ryan was on the road, hit Ryan. It went bad and had to do something with his body.
Yeah. No, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Heather Shtuka told CBC that she didn't think Ryan died from violence, saying he's not confrontational. He's not an instigator. He's not one of those people that would go out of his way to start something. He was a great, funny, loyal guy, sarcastic and great with his friends. And I'm sure all of that is true, what she's saying. But here's my thought. You don't have to be confrontational. You don't have to instigate anything.
No.
To be the victim of either an accident, like you said, and then someone tried to cover it up, or someone just deciding that they wanted to do harm to you.
As we know, there's a lot of bad individuals out there.
Yeah. More time passed and the search efforts continued, but no one was able to find Ryan's body or any other evidence in Sun Peaks. In 2019, a short documentary titled Peaks and Valleys, The Search for Ryan Shtuka, was released on YouTube. The individuals who appeared in the documentary discussed the most common theories about what happened to Ryan. Gene Strong from the Sun Peaks Independent News said that one theory among residents of Sun Peaks is that Ryan was drunk or high and wandered into the woods. They believe his body will be found one day.
It's a pretty good theory, thinking that he walked out of the party, took one of the trails, thinking that would take him home, but instead it took him deeper into the woods, got confused, didn't know where he was, and unfortunately, he succumbed to the elements.
Yeah, it happens. We're talking about very, very nasty cold weather. Hypothermia would set in very, very quickly if he walked out not dressed appropriately for that type of weather. Other residents believe Ryan is no longer in Sun Peaks because no evidence of his presence has been found, such as clothing, bones, personal belongings, or human remains.
I get what they're saying, but we've covered many cases where the area was searched professionally and by the family, and it was many years later, that somebody stumbled across either bones or clothing that was missed by the initial searches.
Yeah. Yeah. You can make a case for both. Now, several Sun Peaks residents believe, kind of like what you alluded to, Gibbs, that Ryan was walking to the village and was hit by a drunk driver who then moved his body somewhere else.
I think that's a really good theory.
It's a real possibility.
Yeah.
The streets of the village are very dark at night, which would make it difficult to see someone walking on the road. Gene Strong said in her appearance on the show Never Seen Again, it wouldn't have been the first case of someone in the village being hit by a drunk driver while they were walking home at night. It's quite a rural area. People feel comfortable that there's very little police presence and people are partying. And we know people were partying that night.
And how many movies have we seen where something like this would happen? And they don't want it to ruin their life, so they end up doing something with the body.
However, according to Alan Hobler from the Kamloops Search and Rescue, there was a trail leading from town to Ryan's house, meaning he wouldn't have had to walk on the road. In order to get to the roadway, he would have had to walk past his house. Hobler questioned why he would do this. But there again, they're working on the assumption that he was headed home. What if he went to the pizza place? Is there a trail leading to the pizza place, or would he have had to have walked along a road?
And if he was drunk, any rationale has to be kind of tossed out of the window.
Yeah, it's possible he could have taken the wrong trail, like you've said. The traffic camera closest to Ryan's home was not working that night, which makes it impossible to prove or disprove this theory.
None of the cameras were working, it sounds like.
Apparently not. So we can't prove that he was at the pizza place, other than there was an eyewitness who said they thought he was there. We can't prove that he was walking home. Now, additionally, there was no evidence of a hit and run, such as blood, clothing, or other debris. No one saw a damaged car or anything else suspicious in the days after Ryan's disappearance. But I don't know if you would always have that.
I don't know either, especially with that amount of snow coming down. It could have covered up any type of blood. And then when it melted, it would have been there.
Washed away.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you just go around daily, are you looking for cars that are, have a dent in the front? Or if you see one, do you automatically assume that they've hit someone?
And if you did hit somebody with your car, are you really going to leave it out there?
Drive it around? No, you're going to park it in a garage and leave it there forever, probably, or take it somewhere at night and have it crushed.
Right.
Others have speculated that Ryan overdosed or had an accident at the party, and the people who were there tried to cover it up. However, as we mentioned previously, the police spoke with the people who attended the party and determined they weren't involved as far as the public knows. So, again, we can talk about all these different theories, and the police can say, well, we interviewed everyone there. We don't think anyone was involved. But how can they know that for sure?
I don't think you can ever know.
Well, unless someone had confessed to it, right? Or admitted to something. In 2020, Heather Shtuka told CBC that the RCMP still received some tips, but nothing had led to Ryan's recovery so far. That year, CBC reported on 6 men who went missing in the same region of the southern interior of British Columbia. The police said there were no links in the cases, but the men's families thought the disappearances and deaths could be related. Of the 6 men, 2 were found dead. On October 9, 2017, 48-year-old Luke Neville went missing near his home in Spence's Bridge, British Columbia. The next day, his burned-out van was found on a Forest Service road 20 kilometers out of town. 32-year-old Ben Tyner was last seen on January 26, 2019. Tyner was a cowboy and went missing from the Merritt area while he was out looking for cattle. His horse was found 2 days later on a Forest Service road. On July 17, 2019, 2 men, 38-year-old Ryan Preventure and 37-year-old Ben Scott, were last seen alive in their white Jeep Cherokee. Their vehicle was found 4 days later in a wooded area near Logan Lake. Their bodies were found a month later in a rural area north of Spence's Bridge. The RCMP believed there was criminal behavior associated with this case. Their cause of death is not public knowledge. On November 17, 2019, 26-year-old Marshall Iwasa went missing. His burned-out truck was found on a Forest Service road near Darcy, British Columbia, on November 23rd. He has not been found. So these are interesting cases, Gibbs, to look at in their own right. Now, whether they're related to the disappearance of Ryan Shtuka, we can talk about that, but there are some real similarities in some of these cases. 2 of these men had burned out vehicles that were found on Forest Service roads. That's pretty strange.
It is strange that 2 vehicles were burned out
on Forest Service roads, and then the people went missing. And then you have Ben Tyner's horse found on a Forest Service road. There's also a tie-in with Luke Neville and then the 2 men, Ryan and Ben, either living in Spence's Bridge, British Columbia, or their bodies being found there. I don't know. You could say these are all independent, but there are some similarities.
But I don't know if you could really tie him back to Ryan.
Yeah, I don't know how we do that. But I think some of these might be connected to each other. In May 2021, the RCMP returned to Sun Peaks to look for information about Ryan's disappearance. Constable Crystal Evelyn told Radio NL the investigation has been ongoing, and part of that investigation is to review things that have been collected and also have a look at any new information that's coming in. In reviewing some of that information, there's some areas that they would like to re-examine and some new areas they'd like to search as well. We still are always collecting information. We don't know what happened to Ryan, and that's part of what we're trying to figure out. Okay, unfortunately, there's really nothing earth-shattering there.
Right.
I mean, that seems like a quote that you would hear from any police official anywhere in the world about a missing persons case. We're still reviewing things. If any new tips come in, we look into them. There's new areas that we want to search.
Pretty generic.
It is, unfortunately, pretty generic. 5 years have passed since Ryan disappeared, and his remains still have not been found. His family and friends have made extensive efforts to keep his case in the public eye. For example, at the beginning of 2023, Ryan's friend London Kramer started a petition to have Sun Peaks Resort name a ski run after Ryan. Heather has become an advocate for other families with missing loved ones. She also wrote a book about Ryan's case titled Missing from Me.
Well, that's good, because maybe what she's doing is helping these other individuals, but also helping her.
Well, I think a lot of that stuff can be therapeutic and beneficial to other families at the same time. Because who would know what another family with a missing loved one needs or is going through than the mother of, a missing son?
Right.
Heather started the Freebird Project with Tammy Nairn and Kate Sinclair, two women who have had family members go missing. The Freebird Project provides support and resources to families with missing loved ones. Ryan's Facebook has over 34,000 members. Within this group, 5 women formed a group called the Unicorns. They promote the Facebook page and help with searches and fundraising. I mean, all of this stuff is amazing.
It is. It's awesome.
Indigo Johnson, a member of this group, wrote a children's book titled The Kindness Quilt, which features a green dinosaur and discusses Ryan's story in the back of the book. Recently, the Unicorns collaborated to create a 3D printed green dinosaur called the Shtukasaurus.
Nice.
Which serves an important purpose. The green dinosaur was chosen because Ryan loved dinosaurs as a little boy. People can order them and put them anywhere in the world. Those who find it can scan a QR code to learn about Ryan's case. These dinosaurs have been found in countries as far as South Africa and New Zealand.
What a great idea.
Oh, this is amazing. I've never heard of anything like this. You can get 2 Shtukasauruses for free by visiting the Facebook page called Missing Ryan Shtuka. The proceeds from the sale of additional dinosaurs go to the Freebird Project and a memorial for Ryan and Sun Peaks. So, let's take a step back here, Gibbs. Think about the time where we were growing up.
Yeah.
You remember the milk cartons.
Of course.
Every time you go to pour yourself some cereal, there would be at least one, if not more, missing children with their information and all of that. Now, I don't know how many people sat there and studied those. To now, we've got these dinosaurs with a QR code that you can scan and learn all about Ryan's story. Amazing.
It is amazing. Anything to get the awareness out there.
At the time of his disappearance, Ryan was 20 years old. He's 6 foot tall, 180 pounds, and is described as having a lean build, blonde hair, and brown eyes. He was last seen wearing dark jeans, a gray and white shirt, a blue coat, and a burgundy ball cap. There is currently a $15,000 reward for information about Ryan's disappearance. If you have any information about Ryan's disappearance, you can contact the Kamloops RCMP at 1-250-828-3000 or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. So as we wrap up this episode, Gibbs, there are a lot of things that stand out to me here. And I think first and foremost is just the lack of information, concrete information. Some of that results from the fact that numerous cameras weren't working in locations where Ryan might have been that night. That's very unfortunate.
It is.
Because as we discussed, those cameras could have provided invaluable information as to, at the very least, which way he came from, which way he, was going when he left, things like that. There's been a lot of theories put forth in this case. We talked about quite a few of them, and they range from having to do with drugs to sex trafficking to, wandering out and getting caught in the elements to being hit by maybe a drunk driver and someone covering that up. The problem that I have is I don't know how you take any of them and discount them at this point in time when, as far as we know, there's no information to say this couldn't have happened. I might discount the alien theory.
Right.
But other than that, I think there's a lot of things that could have happened.
I think somebody out there knows something, right? Unless he wandered off on his own, but maybe somebody saw him wandering off and they could come forward and say, oh, I saw him wandering off. But outside of that, I definitely think somebody would have seen him leave the party. Maybe somebody knows that maybe somebody did hit him with the car. Somebody talked about it and they just don't want to come forward. Maybe somebody knows something about some of the other possibilities and just hasn't come forward yet. I mean, it's still a fairly new case, 5 years, and maybe these individuals are just a little too shy about raising it up.
Yeah. Normally we say someone out there knows something. And I think by and large, that's true for the most part. But there is a scenario, and you just kind of mentioned it here, where he leaves the party. No one really pays attention to it. They don't really see him or remember it. And he just walks the wrong way.
Yeah.
Is disoriented, not really sure where he is, and succumbs to the elements rather quickly. Now, how far could he have made it in that type of cold with what he was wearing? That I can't answer. It does come back to, the question that many people have raised, which is, if that's what happened, why was his body not found? Or why weren't at least some pieces of his clothing found? Those are valid questions.
Very valid.
The one thing that you would have to say is there's a lot of mystery here. It could be a very simple explanation as to what happened to Ryan, but at this point, there's a lot of mystery.
Yeah. And I really hope his family
gets answers.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. Sooner than later. But that's it for our episode on the disappearance of Ryan Shtuka. We got some voicemails, Gibbs. You want to check those out?
Yeah, sure.
Hi, Mike and Gibby. This is Andrea from the Chicago area. And I wanted to tell you I was listening to the Elizabeth Delgado case today. And I am the youngest of 5 girls. And let me tell you, it is not fun. We didn't have a lot of money growing up, so there were tons of hand-me-down clothes, which when the oldest one is 12 years older than you and the next one up is 5 years older than you, let me tell you, the clothes were way out of style before they got to me. And we also, if on the rare occasions we went out, like to McDonald's, we had to share a small fry. And I believe we also had to share burgers, but not counting on that. And we never got drinks. And if we were eating at home, it was a can of condensed Campbell soup that was watered down a lot. So you might get a chunk of chicken in there or a noodle or two. So be happy that you were one of a couple or single in your family. And I look forward to listening to you guys every week. Keep your own time ticking and have a great week. Bye.
Hey, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun. I'm not going to share my McDonald's French fries with anybody.
Especially a small.
Yeah.
There's not that many in there.
No.
Now I feel guilty for being an only child because I got like a full Happy Meal.
You probably got 2 Happy Meals.
I was a little robust. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way as a child.
Leave it at that.
Leave it at that. And then I thinned out.
Yeah.
And then I came back around. It's kind of been a journey.
It's kind of how it works, you know,
Yeah.
full circle.
Full circle. But no, we appreciate the voicemail very much.
You do.
I'm going to try to keep this as short as possible. You guys are my very first podcast to find. I actually find True Crime all the time first. And secondly, after I finally finished that, I started True Crime, which I just finished a couple of minutes ago. But I stick to one between the two. So now that I've finished Unsolved, now I got to go back to True Crime all the time and catch up on the ones I'm behind on. I just want to thank you guys because you really helped me through a time where I had a newborn that had to stay in Children's Hospital for 5 months, and that hospital was an hour away going and coming. So I went through a lot of episodes really fast and got to you guys. So just thank you for all that you do for everyone, and your take on these crimes are better than some of the shows that I've listened to and heard these. So thanks again. And I know, Mike, you are a Wildcat fan, but I just got to say, roll tide rolls. All right. Love you guys. Bye. And keep your own time chicken.
All right. Love it. Thank you for the voicemail. And 5 months, that would be tough.
It would be really tough.
And obviously, there were some issues
Yeah.
to be in there 5 months, but hopefully everything's okay now. And we're glad. We're always glad that the podcast can get anybody through anything. If it makes you laugh, if it makes you just feel like you don't have to think about something that's going on.
Forget for a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes us feel wonderful.
Hey, but we're glad to be on that commute with you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, buddy. That is it.
Yeah.
For another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
See what hit blockbusters are streaming free this month during Popcorn Summer Movies on Pluto TV. Watch Django Unchained or Transformers Dark of the Moon for an action-packed evening, or The Truman Show and School of Rock for a good laugh with the whole family. Plus, Pluto TV has thousands of other free movies available on live and on demand. Download Pluto TV on all your favorite devices for free and start streaming now.